Hi guys, hope you're doing alright. My name is Marc Gallagher. I am a professional musician and I have been going through a little bit of a rejig in my electric guitar setup. So a while back I did a video looking at my electric guitar pedal board in its current state. And in that video I mentioned that I kind of wanted to expand upon it because the board as it was full, but there were a few things I wanted so that I knew that if I did get one of those things, I'd basically need to change everything else. And that's kind of what this video is going to be. It's going to be like a little more vlog style, which kind of takes a look at the steps I take in terms of building this new pedal board from scratch. First thing I want to do is just take a look at some of the new toys that I've got as part of this rig that have warranted the mass change. The first thing I got is a gig rig Quartermaster, the QMX10, so it's got 10 individual loops. For those who've never used a switcher before, and I haven't either to be fair, what happens is the send of this loop will go into the input of your pedal, and then the out of that will go into the return. By organizing your pedal into a series of loops like this, as opposed to a more series setup of just going from one pedal into another, into another, into another, what happens is this is going to be a little bit better for like overall audio quality because you're not going to get other pedals that are not in use coloring the overall tone. So that's the main reason for this, as well as also just the neat, like logical step of just having everything a bit easier within reach. So I'm not having to kind of reach all around the pedal board to access individual pedals. I also got a couple of swaps from my pedal board as well as just additions. So I used to have a Klon style pedal, which I quite enjoyed. However, I've swapped that out now for a Wampler Tumnus Deluxe, which I really like this pedal. I like what it does. It's a bit cleaner and it's a bit more versatile having a 3-band EQ. So I just wanted to get something with a bit more name value with it being from Wampler. And yeah, I quite enjoy this so far. I also replaced my compressor pedal. I had an Amoon Dyna compressor, which I enjoyed. I love how that sounded. However, I feel like guitar compressors are often misusing or simplifying some like studio compressor ideas for the humble guitarist. And as a sound engineer who knows like what actual compression is in terms of threshold, ratio, attack time, release time, I wanted to get something with a few more features. So I've got the Boss CP1X. This is a compressor pedal that's also got some gain reduction meters, which is handy because I want to be able to see and know how much I am compressing a given signal rather than just trying to hear the way it's squashed. I've also got some more parameters in the form of my level going in, ratio, and threshold, as well as attack time. So I quite like this. It was between this or the MXR studio compressor, and I ended up going this one because it was slightly cheaper because I was able to trade in a few other things. In terms of overdrive pedals, I've got the Wampler Pantheon Deluxe. This is a Bluesbreaker style overdrive pedal because I wanted to have some Bluesbreaker style overdrive sounds. The Deluxe has two different channels which are slightly different. Channel 1 is like exactly the old Bluesbreaker, and then channel 2 is the Wampler Pantheon, which is Wampler's take on the Bluesbreaker. So I've just got a bit more versatility here. I got this from a shop in the States that sent it over, so that's nice. I also got a JHS Bonsai, which is the Ibanez Tube Screamers, or basically it's all of the Tube Screamers in one, and I quite like that. I tried this specific pedal out in Chicago, and I enjoyed the variances between the different Tube Screamer models, so that was nice. I know that you can get into similar Tube Screamer territory with the Wampler Paisley, which I already have on the board. I'm keeping on the board, but I wanted something a bit more deliberately purpose-built, and I look forward to spending a bit more time just really dialing in and having that kind of sound. Next is a couple more effecty things. So I've got an always-on slapback style delay pedal made by Blacks, which is like a Stag company, I think, and I like what that does, and I like having that as my always-on slapback delay. But if I want something a bit more effecty, like the dotted eighth notes and like, you know, those fancy delay tricks, I've got a Fender mirror image delay. I think I've sourced this on eBay or from Marketplace, and yeah, I like what I've done with it so far. However, I know I need to spend more time just dialing in and getting like more specific effecty kind of sounds. And while we're on like this sort of effecty time-based thing, I've also got the TC Electronic Hall of Fame reverb. So this pedal, yes, I have reverb on my amps and it sounds nice and I have it as an always on in the background thing. But when I want something a bit more dramatic, a bit more swelly maybe, then that's what this is here for. As well as changing some pedals, adding some pedals, and even adding a switcher, I've also changed out the power because I used to use this kind of like power brick type thing, which is fine. It does the job. It's powered by 18 volt DC, and that's fine. However, I like my pedal boards to be powered by IEC, just a kettle lead, because it's a bit more of a standardized connection type and a cable type. It is slightly more durable. The IECs are usually a bit thicker than like the thin DC lead, so it's going to be a bit more durable. Additionally, like it reduces the need of having like a load of extension leads to go bring power and a plug socket right to your board, only so that you then get like a little 18 volt adapter that's about a meter long, if that. So I decided to get the Fender Engine Room Level 12. I quite like this power supply because I've got one in my ukulele board. It does what I need it to do quite nicely. I acknowledge that despite this having 12 outputs, I have like more than 12 things to power because I'm a bit of a fool. So what I plan to do is use these and then have one of the 18 volt outputs be used to power a brick like this, so I don't have to sell this on, and this brick can just feed the rest of the pedals that I need it to. If that doesn't quite work, it does have an IEC out on the supply, which is really handy because it means I could get another power supply like a Engine Room Level 5, which has 5 outputs, and then that could, you know, power everything I need in a slightly better quality way. But currently, I'm going to see how I get on with this. And that's it for right now. Next time I'm going to check in, it will be when I get the actual physical board itself, and we can talk about everything that went into that. So I've got the new board now. It is this thing here. It just arrived today. This is a board by Alder and Ash, a company down in Kent, I want to say, and they're great. So I've got my acoustic board, which was made by Alder and Ash, but I got it secondhand. I reached out to Rich himself and said, hi, could you please make me one? And yeah, so that's what we've done. He's kind of makes his boards in accordance with like the sizes of like the gig rig switching systems. So this was kind of tailor-made to fit the QMX10 in no real problems. And in terms of the board's construction, this is made of all plywood covered with a Tolex and a fabric in blue because that's me. And I got some white piping done along the sides of this. We have I/O in the form of a jack socket here and an IEC port here for the power supply. And on this side, we've got two outputs, two jack outputs, because I want to go into two different amps is kind of the goal for this. And yeah, I decided to go with the all plywood thing just as a cost saving measure because I decided for this I didn't necessarily need it to have like some hardwood around it. And yeah, I'm really pleased with the result. What we have as well as this is it also comes in a case. It's a bit of a meaty case, this thing, but it's got, yeah, hinges which open up. For the time being, I'm going to kind of just leave this in my spare room and only bring it out when I need to take the board on the road with me. But the plan is for the board to live here most of the time. But this was a really pleasant surprise to have like a full-on case to kind of support the pedal board. So going through now, we're going to take a look at how I start putting the board together. So ordinarily, what you would do in a pedal board setup thing is to kind of loosely just place your pedals on the board and start trying to order and organize and figure out what goes where. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to first thing just place down the switcher, because this is what everything is kind of based around and coming off of. So what I'm planning to do is to just have this right at the bottom as a non-negotiable, no, this is 100% going here. So I'm going to secure it with some 3M dual lock tape because this stuff is insane. Much better than Velcro in terms of how it sort of sticks together and locks against itself. So that's currently the plan. I'm just going to use either some kitchen scissors or wire cutters and just kind of cut along the rough length of here. Before applying that to the back of the switcher. Remove the little protective film, and away we go, and then just really pop that along there. And then I can basically do the same kind of thing, but just along here, just along the bottom of the board. Scissors out. And then once I've done this and just got the switcher firmly in place, I can then concentrate on getting a rough idea for the rest of the board. That's sorted down there, so it's kind of on the board here. If I go slightly more towards here, okay, I think that's in, so just gotta leave it. Next thing I want to do from here is to just start getting a rough placement of where things are going to live. But I'm going to hold off on that because what I like to do is have things like just YouTube on in the background while I'm doing stuff, so I don't want to give a running commentary of the entire thing. So I'll snap back once I've got a rough layout sorted. Okay, so at least I can get all the pedals on the board, even if it does look a little bit busy. In terms of the signal flow, I'm thinking it's going to go something like this. Go into the tuner first, then into the compressor, which is going to be an always-on kind of pedal. Then it will go into the quartermaster, through which the loops will be Muff, Tumnus, Blues Driver, Paisley, Pantheon, JHS. So yes, I've got too many fucking gain stages. It's insane. I've got like, what, 7 forms of overdrive and a fuzz. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I've got, in terms of effecty ambient things, we've got the 7, which would be the reverb. The 8, which is the delay. So I might swap them around. 7 and 8. Number 9 will be the chorus, and then I've got a loop spare at the moment, and my current thought was having the delay, which is the slapback thing, and the EQ and the tremolo. They're always on, so I was thinking of having those on the output at the very end of this. So now, actually, I might swap the chorus over. But I have a feeling of, if I want to do like the always on stuff at the very end of the chain, out of the quartermaster and before the output on the board itself, I might have those underneath the whole tray if I can fit them. That's currently what I might do there, but preliminarily that's an option, so we'll see. Got the fan on because I get quite sweaty up here. From my old board I had Velcro. Need to remove this, and what I might do is also kind of just give a little rub to the base of it so that it's got more of a thing, a clean thing for the tape, the dual lock tape to stick on. So that's gone, and I just found a couple of wipes which have probably dried out a little bit. But I found these under the sink just for me to give a bit of a rub to, and yeah, get things going there, and then sort of roughly iron it where I want this to go. Sort of right, so I think it slots nicely just about here, which is kind of between where these rubber studs are, so that's quite fortunate actually. And what I'm going to do, rather than with the Velcro, rather than doing like these just big strips all across, what I think you should do is instead kind of just have like a couple of horizontal strips kind of here. Gives you two different points of sticking rather than just having a big ass sheet that could just lift off with the entire pedal. So that's what I'm going to try. So line that up about there. Get my scissors. Bitch. Line that there, get my scissors. And it's about stick that just there. Voila. So I could maybe use this bit here, but do I want to save it for like a smaller pedal, which it will fit on the whole thing of. I've got 2 rolls of this. Hopefully I don't have to buy another one, because that would really annoy me. But yeah, so this about here, and scissors out. You got that there. Then line this up. It's about where I'd want it stuck, and that is now in. That's not going anywhere. Yep, that is really in there now. So I just got to repeat this same process now for my other pedals. That'll be my lighter stages, and then I will follow it up with the Paisley, the Pantheon, and the JHS Bonsai. Fuck, so many overdrives. Gonna go with this pedal next because it's already got the dual lock tape on. Hopefully I don't need to do too much like jiggery pokery in terms of shifting it around. We'll see. I'm going to try something a bit jammy with the blues driver, taking off the Velcro and stuff, but I want to line up the dual lock tape to like stick perfectly so I've not like got wasted stuff here. So what I'm thinking of doing is taking the tape, not leaving the film off, putting it down, using the pedal to squish it in, then take it off, remove the film, and stick the pedal on. Gonna give that a try because I want to make sure that I line it up properly and I don't, you know, have a load of weird overspill gap things. So that's the next big task. So pop that there and give it a big push so it kind of clicks in place. And then that tape isn't going anywhere. Oh, there you go. Just make sure that's all in. And then what I can do is kind of line up where I want the pedal. And to be fair, I'm not going to be like clicking the pedal on and off too much because that's what the switch is for. So yeah, I just want to make sure I've got the lineup of this right. Take it, move it there, and then quickly off. Oh, fuck's sake, get off, and just really put the pressure in here. Maybe somewhat even, maybe somewhat for a bit longer, just so it sticks to the bottom of the pedal itself. And that should be it. That should be pretty secure. At least I fucking hope so. And then maybe I could try that with my other pedals, you know. That would actually be quite helpful. Because then it would stop me getting some weird misaligned. So I'll try that. Let's see. Whoa-oh, whoa-oh. Whoa-oh, whoa-oh. Initially I had the Pantheon a bit too close here to the Paisley. I do want to have access to their the switches here for gain level and voicing, and I wasn't able to do that quite effectively when it was too close. But I moved it over here, and now if I was to place the bonsai here and still leave enough room for jacks for the switches, then I don't really have enough room to do anything else with this space. I could, in theory, just about squeeze this mini delay pedal on, but I really don't want to. So what I think I might manage, if I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up here, and that's my gain stage, this is gain, and then down here on the middle section is where I can have my other pedals, my effecty time-based things, and then if absolutely the worst comes to the worst, I can take the always-on pedals, my EQ, my trem, my delay, and I can just have those underneath the board here, because this shelf kind of lifts up and out, so I could just have these living underneath. So I think the next stage for this is to attach this and just be like, right, top row, that's gain. That's just my drives in various forms. And then just have my time-based things down here, and then maybe my always-on pedals down below. We'll see. I've run out of pedalboard tape. I think the reason is because I've used 2 rows of the tape for the pedals instead of like 1. Because I just wanted to make sure I had, like, it'd be stronger if it had 2 points of sticking and adhesion rather than just like a single row. I think it's a bit too cramped if I was to try and put those on, but I think if I had the EQ pedal there so I could adjust it, I'd be happy. If I was to... I'm mindful of not getting them too cramped together, just because when it comes to cabling up, I've got to be mindful of getting the jack plugs, being able to like fit them in next to each other, and knowing that I have to take pedals off to, you know, put stuff in. So I want to make sure that I've got that sorted as well. So I'm being mindful of that, as well as, you know, ideally I could fit, say, the EQ and the delay pedal on there as my always-ons. That's my first thing, that's my second thing, and then it goes into the input. So then I could have those two, and then I could go out of the delay into my tremolo, which will live underneath the board. So it's annoying because I've run out of tape now, and I can't progress with this until I get more tape. And despite 3M dual lock tape being fantastic, places like Screwfix or B&Q don't carry it, and that's really annoying. So I also am impatient and I don't want to wait for delivery. I'd rather, because I've started the thing, I want to just continue it until it's done. So I ordered another meter of dual lock tape. I had to wait a few days, and I just barely managed to fit everything on without running out of tape. So yeah, this is now all broadly in. Top row is my gain stages. Also, I've got set down the power supply, found an engine room, and I've got this little cheapy thing for now. And then my last pedal in the chain is a tremolo, which has 2 outputs, and that goes into the 2 outputs on there, so I can go into 2 amps. So now I think it's time to start making cables. Okay, let's talk about cables. So I've got some solderless cable kits for the patch leads, and I'm going to show you like my process in making cables. This is sort of a generic one that I got from eBay that follows the same kind of general text. So in terms of the cable itself and how it works, I'm definitely going to need some B-roll for this, but the cable itself has got 2 bits of copper. One is like the center core, which is then encased in rubber, and then outside of that you've got more copper on the outside, which is then itself encased in this rubber. 2 bits that we need to kind of penetrate. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this end and we're going to put it into here, into our plug, and there is a little sort of spike here which is going to pierce that center core of the cable. And then what you're going to do is we'll bend that, put this little cap on so that it's a right angle connection, and then what we do is we have this little screw we screw drive that in a little bit, and what this screw is going to do is it's going to pierce the very outer layer. It's going to then touch the outside copper, and that is going to complete the connection. So the tip is connected to the inner, and then the sleeve is connected to the outer. So that's what we have to put together. I've already made a few cables, so this is going to be one of the last ones I do before I actually run out of plugs. So let's say I want to go from the return of my blues driver to about here, so I'm giving myself enough length and then maybe like a couple centimeters extra. Got some wire cutters, and then you have to be very careful with it because apparently wire cutters are actually not very good for this kind of thing because they have a tendency to squash the cable together. Now what we do, take the plug and we're going to just sort of pop it in, give it a little twist, a little bit, and then I've got a multimeter, and this is absolutely crucial for having and making cables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test at multiple points the tip to the tip, the sleeve to the sleeve, and also the tip and sleeve against each other. So we're going to get, if there is a good connection, we're going to get a little beep, and if there's no connection, we're going to get no sound, and that's what we need to bear in mind. So I just want to check that I've got this in correctly by testing the tip against the center of the other cable. And we have, so I know I'm good on that front. Then I can take this, fold it over, and where'd my screw go? Well, balls. Oh, found it. Right, so take that, and I'm just gonna go ever so gradually, and I'm going to screw it just until I start getting a little bit of resistance. Right, that'll do. Now, reason why I stop there is because if you go too far, then what happens is the screw breaks through and breaks into the center core, touching that, and then it basically shorts the cable. And that's not what you want, because you want to have the tip and the sleeve be disconnected from each other. Otherwise your signal's going to go to ground and you're not going to get any signal. So what I'm doing now is I just have to test again. Let's go sleeve to the sleeve, because I know the tip's in fine. So sleeve to sleeve, so I'm just putting the meter on the outside of the cable. So no beep means no connection, which means that I need to screw in a bit further. So just going to go very small, maybe a turn or two, a turn at a time. Still none, and again, still no. But I've shorted the cable a couple of times now, so I'm actually trying to be really careful about this. Damn, still nothing, which means I just need to go a bit more. I just don't want to short it. Sleeve and yes, got it right. So now we just got to repeat the process for the other end with the other plug. First thing I'm going to do is just go in here, give it a little twist, and then I'm just going to check tip to tip, tip. Good. It's a bit crackly because they were laying on the carpet, so I'm guessing that's just a bit of interference from there. Now bend that over, put this on, and then it starts screwing. But I've also got to be mindful as to which end is which, so that I don't end up, when I'm adjusting, I don't end up like screwing this end in too far and then shorting the cable. So I've just got to remember that it's this one. So screw it in till I feel a bit of resistance, and just going to go one more turn. Right, now tip to tip's fine. This is the end, this is the one I'm looking at. Sleeve to get the piston thing, sleeve to It's alive! So yeah, we now have a working cable. Alright, so in terms of patching it in, this is going from the output of the blues driver into the return on loop 3. I'm going to plug in loop 3 first, feed it through here, lift the tray up, take this to here, put it back down, and then I might have to lift a pedal or two just to double clear space, but I can then reattach it easily enough, and it's in. And basically, I'm going to repeat this process for basically all the other pissing cables in this pissing pedal board. So I bought 2 fucking largish kits to make, what, 10 cables? And I've started to run out already, and joy of joys. So I'm going to repeat this. Right now I've got 2 plugs left, which means I can make just 1 more cable. So I'm going to probably just do 1 more going to fucking anything, and then I might hand this off to someone else to do the rest, because I'm getting kind of bored just talking about it, let alone just doing it. So that's what I'm going to do from the audio signal patch cable standpoint. I'll check in later on about what I do power cable wise. Right now I've run out of plugs for the audio side of things, so I've just got a shitload of cable. Right now I'm just going to give up for the time being. I might buy some more plugs. I might just outsource this to my local guitar tech who can do this kind of thing. What I'm going to look at now is looking towards power. Before I start making more cables using a different kit that I've got for this, I think I'm going to do something a little different, because I've got a couple of bags that are full of random assorted sized existing patch leads. Some I've made, some I haven't, and I'm gonna put the multimeter away for the time being and just see what I can make fit and go from there. Whoa-oh, whoa-oh. Whoa-oh, whoa-oh. So I managed to get some power cables in to the back row. And this is the easiest one to do, quite honestly, because for the stuff down here, what I need to do, I would absolutely hate to have like just a run of cable going from here vertically down. What I need to do is have cable that comes from here, goes along, goes up, and then along, so that it's all neat and kind of then will be attached to the underside of this. That's absolutely crucial. And with the long cables that I found, I managed to patch in this power supply, which has got a very short lead to go to that one, that pedal. Then I guess it's just a case of pulling, I might have to start making some more very, very long patch cables so that I can tackle these pedals. That's the next step, I think. Okay, here's the latest on the power stuff. I think I've done it. Using just what I had available without having to go into my 3 Monkeys cut to length set. I think I've got everything powered in. So I've got everything plugged in on here, and then I can just make these cables tidy and taut. I've got cable ties and stamps for it. That's going to be like the last step in that, I think. But I've got the bones of it, because if I bring this down now, all these pedals, they're all in. The only thing that is missing now is the quartermaster, which that needs the longest cable because it needs to go right at the back and then up and around the underside of the board to come and be neat. Here's where it gets really interesting, because when I was doing a previous board making custom length power cables, I had a couple of spare plugs and I ran out of cable, and now I've got all this cable from the audio set, and the principle's still the same. It still uses a small pincer in here which gets to the center core, and then you screw in to the outer core to connect it. So I think I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to use this to be my power thing, and then what I can do is I can ask the very kind folks at Three Monkeys, hi, can I return this? I've not opened it. Can I swap this for a jack set? And hopefully they will oblige, and that will all be grand. So, absolute result. So now to figure out like just how long this cable needs to be for me to cut it. So I'm going into this port, which is 9 volt, 500 milliamps, which is what the Quartermaster requires. And then I want to run it just along here, and then maybe at the back, like probably under these, and then it'll go like along there, and up here, and then about there. So about there, gonna give it maybe an extra little bit of something, but now that means I can cut about here and apply my extra end, and then we can use the multimeter, test it, and get cracking. Yeah. This is using the same like technology as what we were doing before, so just pulling the screw back a little bit here. Got a little metal sheet here which is going to pierce the inner core, so just going to pop that in nice and sort of taut, and then going to just get the cable out the meter and just check center to center. That's my center. Beautiful. So now I just got to screw in, break that sort of outer core. So wait until I feel a little bit of resistance, and then going to test the sleeve to sleeve. Sleeve 1, sleeve 2, nope. Go again, just give another turn or so. Right, sleeve and sleeve. Great, so that's sleeve. So what you next now have to do, crucially, is make sure that this, the sleeve, is not connected to the ring, to the tip, which it's not. So tip's in, that's connected, tip to tip is so yeah, we've got a brand new cable just from utilizing the spare plugs from a previous thing and the spare wire from another. That means I can now go there, in, around, up, and that can go into this part of the Quartermaster, and we have power to everything. Boom. That's great news. That's really, really good news. Now I just gotta ask Three Monkeys if they will consider doing a swap from this instead of just giving me like an audio kit. So I just gotta see what they say. Hi, we got some more cable stuff. So I managed to successfully do the swap for the Three Monkeys screw-in solderless stuff. I swapped the power cables that I had for some audio cables. So I've got a load of cable, got a load of jack plugs, and this is actually the simplest solderless cable system that I've come across so far, and I fucking love it. So making cables, we've got the board, and then I'm deciding, you know, how much length I want. So for example, I want to go Pantheon, descend from about here, and I want it to go up and around to the input of this pedal. I'm going to give myself a bit extra distance and length, which I can always, you know, shorten if I so wish. But So normally to cut the cable, it recommends a utility knife with a fresh blade. I got a chopping board, I got a knife, it didn't really work, so I am using trusty wire cutters. Three Monkeys don't recommend wire cutters because it can squash the cable in the ends, but also I just wasn't getting what I wanted. So for the Three Monkeys system, it's a screw-in solderless, so you take your end, you take the plug, and you simply just screw on a few times, which is insane, but because there's no like external screwing in like you saw me do on the other cables, so it's a bit less fiddly. They market it as if you can screw in a light bulb you can make a cable, which I think is quite cute. The way this works, as far as I'm aware, is you've got a pin in the middle which is joining the center cord, that's the tip, but as you are doing the screwing, the threads on the inside pierce through the outer edge of the cable, and that's what connects the sleeve to, which is really clever. Now we have a cable, and then if I take my tester, so that's sleeve to sleeve, sleeve to tip, tip to tip. Beautiful. We now have a working cable, and that's the quickest, easiest setup I've come across in a long time. So I'm going to pop it in Pantheon, send. Oh, I've labelled all my sends now, labelled all my parts on the Quartermaster, which will be a bit helpful for me both during the setup and also through gigs, you know, when I need to decide what pedal I want to set up. In terms of the power, I think I've shown it already, but I basically got all the power working the way I needed it to. Like, I plugged the board in and everything was working, so I'm thrilled, honestly. So now just popping the cable through the underside of the board, feed it through up there, and then patch that in. So I just had to repeat the same process for everything else, and then I will start using cable ties to put them down and make it really neat. So that's going to be the next process, just making more cables. But that Three Monkeys solderless system is really good. I really like that one. Now that all the cabling's done, the last bit has just been to put in the cable ties and make it neat, because it was a hell of a mess from before. So just been using these little, I can't remember the name of the plastic stops and then cable ties. I got these from sets in past pedal boards that I have bought, so I just used the spare ones that I had. Meanwhile, yeah, so I've been going through all of them and trying to neaten out a little bit. There's been a few bits of like unplugging and rerouting so that there are less cables that are crossing over each other, and this isn't perfect right now. I don't think it will be without me starting again, really. But yeah, this is currently just got some neatish little runs. I'm a bit conscious of one of the cables for the paisley, which is being a bit too taut, so I might have to readdress that. And then, yeah, I've got these nasty little tails, which I'm just going to cut off the tails on the end of the cable ties. So, where are my scissors at? I'll just use these cable ties, whatever. Take this, and voila. But we're getting very close now to the end, in which I can finally plug in and start running a guitar and amp through it. So we'll see. So this is it. This is the board. I think I've got all the cables up now, and just a case of testing it to see if it works. So, in terms of my signal flow of everything, once again, go into the side of the board, that goes into the tuner, compressor, and then that goes into the Quartermaster, which switches between loop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then it goes to 7, 8, 9, 10. Currently has nothing going on. The output, the Quartermaster, goes into my master EQ, master delay, which is going to be an always on slapback. That goes out into this Vibratron pedal, which is an always on, very mild little tremolo that has two outputs which go into the two outputs of here, which then go into two amps. This whole thing is powered by the Fender Engine Room Level 12 and this Kellen S Power, whatever the fuck it is. But in terms of the assembly of cables, most of it has been using my custom made to length jack cables. The DC cables, what I had in stock, the normal cables, were just generally long enough for it, except for the one for the Quartermaster, which I've run all the way down, all the way at the back, and nice and neatly up there. So, yeah, in terms of the cables, there might be one thing I want to change at the moment. The send to the Big Muff is using this smaller, normal, regular consumer cable. I just ran out of cable and plugs, so maybe in a bit of time I might buy another smaller set just so I can make that cable, and maybe I might do the same thing for the delay here. But first thing I would do is power. Stick on power and just make sure everything is working and that it happens. So tuner works, compressor, that works, Quartermaster, all of those light up, and that is amazing. The pedals individually, the Muff, the Beat Blues, the Pantheon, the... yep. That, and then lastly, the pedal underneath. That turns on too, which is great. I've currently patched this into my Vox AC10. So let's turn that amp on and see if we get a bit of signal. I'll just grab a guitar. Let's grab my Telecaster and I'll plug in, see what I can make happen. This crucial stage is just to make sure that it gets signal going in everywhere. Okay, signal goes out through the amp. Right now we've got tuner and it's on and it should work in theory. Cool, close enough. Turn the compressor off. Great, good start. So, Muff. There we go, we've got signal going to and from the Muff. Okay, Clon. Great, that works. The Blues Driver. That works. The Paisley. Right. Paisley. That's why. Okay. Right. Okay, we're getting signal. Pantheon. Yep, we're getting something. Pantheon, try again. Bonsai. That works. Delay. Turn delay on. Really exaggerate the time. Great, the delay does definitely work. Okay. Chorus. Chorus definitely works. Reverb. Let's just exaggerate the effects level on that. Okay, so we do get that working great. And then very last thing is turn on the tremolo. You hear that wobble. That's it. everything works. It's all plugged in. It turns on. We get a signal from it. All I need to do now is just, like dial it in. Actually spend some time with all the individual settings. And that'll be its own video. But hey, I've expanded my pedal board and taken a custom made thing, added a bunch of pedals and a switcher and new power and signal stuff, and this is it. This is it now. Broadly speaking, I've got everything I need for my new updated guitar pedal board. And I think that's really cool. So folks, there you have it. We've successfully taken my medium-sized pedal board and we have upgraded it to the behemoth that we now have. And it was quite an undertaking, and it did take a few months from when I dismantled and sold my original medium-sized board and finally put everything together like you've seen now. And it took a lot of time and a lot of money, but I'm really pleased with the result. Speaking of the money, I just thought I'd make a brief note and an itemization of some of the costs that went into this. Unfortunately, it was one of those situations where, because I knew I needed to change one thing about the board that was already full, I knew I had to change everything else. So a rough itemization, this is going to sound mental, right? So the physical board itself was from Alder & Ash, and that cost £418. The Quartermaster switcher, on which everything else is based around, was £287.98, so nearly £300, pretty close. The tape was about 85 quid because I bought, I think, like 7 meters of it for the various applications, but also some of it was used on other boards that I have, so it's not entirely that much that I spent for this project. My original really finicky patch leads, which I made, was £42.70, and then the Three Monkey solderless ones were £160 pretty much, and I much prefer the kit that I had with the Three Monkeys stuff. It was so effortless to make that kind of cable. Then in terms of like the pedals, the upgrades that I made in terms of some of the stuff I swapped out, in terms of some of the stuff that I just added onto the board. We had the Wampler Pantheon Deluxe, which cost £176.49, but there was also a little bit of a cost added on for import charges. It was maybe £30. The JHS Bonsai was £125. The Tumnus was £140. The Hall of Fame reverb pedal was £75, and the delay was £65. All of that, as well as the £105 power supply, brings up to a ridiculous total of £1,680.07. Yikes. So this board isn't going to exactly pay for itself in the near future, because I currently am not doing much gigs on electric guitar. However, as a project for me to undertake this, I have had much more fun doing it this way rather than just buying a Quad Cortex, a Kemper, some kind of digital all-in-one solution. I had a lot of fun just really personalizing something that is uniquely mine and is now mercifully, I hope, a permanent install. I will never want to change out pedals in my board now because I've got everything that I think I want. So that's one thing for me in terms of my current pedalboard setup. It was a lot, and honestly, I'm really thrilled with the result. It was something that is now uniquely mine, and it's going to mostly live here in my studio for when I am playing at home, when I'm recording for myself and possibly for other clients, but also when I do join more bands. This is going to come to me for gigs and rehearsals, and it's going to sound absolutely mental. In terms of the sounds, we are going to do some more videos down the line where we start dialing in some of these pedals and the overall sound of my electric guitar setup, and hopefully you can join me for those. Thank you very much for watching. Especially thank you to my Patreon supporters who join me and they support what I do. You can do the same thing by going to patreon.com/Marc Gallagher Music. Otherwise, my name is Marc Gallagher. Like my Facebook page, follow me on your favorite social media of choice at Marc Gallagher Music. Until next time, my name is Marc Gallagher. Like the video if you want, share if you feel compelled to, and follow me on places. I'll catch you down the road.